least favourite books of 2025 video. I was just looking through and I was like, I don't know what to quantify as a book that I disliked. And I was like, maybe books that I've given 1 star. And I thought there would only be maybe 2 or 3, but it turns out that I gave like 20 books 1 star this year. So we're gonna cut it down a little bit more and just do the books that I really, really, really hated. So yeah, I think to start off, my most hated book this year, also I should say, I have either sold, donated, or put in my book library most of these books just because I have so many books on my shelves. I don't want to keep books that I don't like. Just because I don't like them doesn't mean other people will feel the same. So I always try and donate them when I can. I think eventually I might do a bookshelf video, but I think I've mentioned before that I have over 800 physical books in my house, in my collection. So yes, it becomes a little bit difficult to find all of the shelf space. Okay, the first book this year that I hated is Come Right Around by Alan Governor. This book I gave the lowest possible rating, 0.25 stars. I honestly didn't even have that much to say because I found this book to be so atrocious. The dialogue is cringy. The inner monologue of the main character is cringy. Pretty horrific and triggering events are used as the main plot device, but it is not done in a tasteful way. Essentially, a girl is assaulted and her boyfriend pretty much blames her and is questioning the entire time whether it was because of what she wore or what she said. And this book was published in 2025 and I was just like, really, we're still doing this? So that was just a big no for me. The next book that I hated this year was Uncanny Valley by Anna Weiner. This book was marketed as a memoir about the tech industry, and as a general rule I would say I don't particularly like memoirs and biographies, because the people that write them are oftentimes quite unremarkable, and I am questioning why this biography was ever written. I will say in the past year my mind has been changed on that because I've read some really, really fantastic memoirs and biographies, but for the most part I still think it's a book like Uncanny Valley is what ruins that genre of book for me and what historically turns me away. When it's the story of some random, uninspiring, run-of-the-mill person, especially in Silicon Valley, I'm not interested. The book as well was sort of marketed as a tell-all, but there wasn't really anything in there she wouldn't even name like the company that she worked for. And I think the way that the book is written is that we're meant to feel sorry for the author because she's working in this sort of soulless, super capitalistic workplace, but it's a tech startup funded by venture capital. Of course it was going to be that. It's literally in the name. Yeah, I found the writing to be super pretentious as well, and she's still really young, but she comes across and talks about how her life was over when she turned 29, and it was just super not it. So yeah, I was not a fan of that one. The next book I didn't like, I think I've spoke at length before, but this is Unsettled by Kate Grenville. This is an Australian author, was also published this year. The reason I gave this 1 star was because the book and the start of the book sort of makes you think this book is going to be about white Australians grappling with the fact that we're living on stolen land and what we can do to reconcile for our history and what we did to First Nations people. But this book is completely just a white saviour complex book. The author pretty much the entire time just talks about her family, and her family came over in the First Fleet and was one of the groups of people that committed the genocide against First Nations people. And she talks about how she feels really connected to the land that she walks on and that he walks on, even though he was literally one of the people who stole it. And it's sort of this, I had a moral dilemma about feeling connection to a land that you forcibly took from other people. I thought that was interesting. She was self-aware enough in the book to call out some of her whitewashing behaviour, yet a book that's supposed to be about reconciling our actions ended up being all about her and her family and her white history. So yeah, I really didn't like this book, and the worst part was that I felt she didn't bring any solutions to the table for people who actually want to reckon with the fact that they do benefit from stolen land, and she gives no new ideas as to like what we can do to pay the rent. So that book was quite disappointing. Yes, to say the least. The next book that I gave 1 star this year and really disliked was Universality by Natasha Brown. Unfortunately, this book was really not it for me. Originally I gave it 2.5 stars, but on further reflection I downgraded it to 1 star because there was pretty much nothing about the book that I liked, and I don't even know why I gave it such a high rating in the first place. My cats are going crazy right now. I do apologise. I don't know, they just always want attention when I whip out the camera to film. Funny that. So this book is strange. It sort of has a chapter at the beginning that is totally unrelated to the rest of the book, and I don't really understand these racist and xenophobic views, because the people who read it, who believe that, will not understand that this is a satire. And I do think that people can write books with satirical commentary on something and it not come across that way. Yeah, I don't know. I really didn't like this book. I have also read Assembly by the same author, and I think everything that she was trying to do with this book was done better in Assembly. Assembly was only a 3-star book for me though, so I don't know if that says a lot. The next book that I really disliked this year that I read was Night Bitch by Rachel Yoda. This one really got me riled up. I thought it was such a sad, boring, faux feminist book, and yeah, I really did not have a good time. It wasn't even fun to laugh at how bad it was just enraging. I had so many issues with this book. The first one being that the main character constantly brings up that she never wanted to be a mother, and being a mother has essentially ruined her life. And I cannot stress enough that if you do not want children, do not have children. I don't care if your partner really wants kids. If you do not want kids, do not have kids, especially if you're a woman. No, we are not bringing children into this world just for a man. Absolutely not. I was honestly so gobsmacked that this book would even promote the idea of having kids when you don't want them. And I know, unfortunately, that does happen all of the time because of this societal expectation put on women to have kids, and that, you know, we're the breeders and all of these misogynistic views. But why, as a woman especially, would you write a book promoting that ideal? I did find out after reading, though, that the author grew up in the Mennonite community of Appalachia, which is a very conservative religious group of people. So I kind of felt like those conservative ideals, whether she's like sort of gotten out of that community or not, was still very rooted in this book. And besides the fact that the book was also just quite boring, I found the whole like, oh, I'm a woman, I'm a mother, and I'm turning into a dog, and I'm a night bitch, to be completely fueled by internalized misogyny. I don't think it's a good thing to say that, you know, a woman struggling with her mental health, grappling with losing her career and her sense of self, is turning into a dog. Like, that's definitely, you know, women are bitches, right? Or women be crazy logic. This book, I feel like, had so much more interesting things it could have said about the idea of losing your sense of self when you become a mother, especially when you didn't want to be a mother. And I felt as well the book was like glorifying the husband and always talking about him as like a prince figure, but he would only spend the weekend with his family and wouldn't help raise the child. And honestly, I just don't know why the main character was still with him in the first place, to be honest. I really didn't like that book. It was not good. The next book that I really did not like this year was Luster by Raven Liani. I think I'm just over age gap books. This one features a 19-year-old with a married man with kids in his 40s or 50s, and I think I just want books to stop glorifying shitty men. And I've read my fair share of books that have problematic age gaps, and I'm just kind of over it. And I'm over people thinking that it's normal and okay. Like, no. This girl was still a teenager with a grown-ass man. That is such a violation of power dynamics, and even though I know that she's technically adult, that's, for me, that still borders on pedophilia because she's still a teenager. Like, come on, what are we doing? Why are we still writing books with these problematic age gaps that don't even have any social commentary about how it's problematic? Like, this book, no, I didn't like it. And I just, the most interesting things that happened in this book only happened in the last 20 pages, and I felt like there is an event that happened, and I felt like that was only put in there to be a plot device to finish the book. Because if you really wanted to write a book about sort of police brutality and racially motivated acts of violence, you would have done that without shoehorning them in at the very last minute of the book. I felt like it was just lazy writing, and if you're going to include something like that, you need to actually have something to say rather than using it as a plot device. The next book I did not like this year was The Safekeep by Yael van der Warden. I've spoken about this before, but I really wanted to like this book. I bought the hardcover copy because it's so stunning, the cover. And hardback books in Australia are expensive, anywhere between $30 and $40, which in US dollars is probably like $50 or $60 for a hardback. So it's pricey, but I found the way that the characters spoke to each other so obnoxious in this book. I hated Isabel, I hated Ava, and the way that they interacted with each other was so cringy. Like, when they were speaking to each other, the sentences would just sort of finish halfway through the sentence, and it read like no one knew what they wanted to say to each other, and they would just finish the sentence. Like, not finish the sentence, they would stop speaking halfway through, and it would be like, it would end with all these ums and ahs, and I hated the experience of reading this book. It was just so disappointing, and I guess the point was to make the atmosphere tense, but I found that was so out of place because that was so unrequired, and I understand that it's supposed to be this like lustful yearning for a queer person when it's unaccepted in society, but that did not come across to me. It just felt cringy. The next book, this is probably going to be the second last one, that I didn't like was The Vegetarian by Han Kang. again, this book just made me annoyed, mainly because it won the 2024 Nobel Peace Prize for Literature, and it is so well liked among the sort of bookstagram community. I am not on TikTok, so I don't refer to it as the book talk community because I'm not part of that. I only follow people on YouTube and Instagram who talk about books, so that's where I see a lot of people's opinions on these books, and for some reason everyone liked this book, but I thought it was so bad. I don't think I've ever been happier to finish a book. I felt like the book panders to the male gaze to the extreme, and I don't know whether that was the intention or whether it's a cultural difference or it's something in the translation from Korean to English, but I hated it. There was no art in this for me. The men in the book were so disgusting that I was just getting frustrated, and I couldn't believe that the women would go along with their horrible behaviour. And I don't even think that the book had any commentary on the power struggle between men and women, but because the women in the book didn't fight back, there was not a single feminist bone in any of their bodies. I just thought that glorification of shitty men, again, I'm over it. I'm sick of it. I don't understand why the book was so highly acclaimed. The last book that I have to talk to you about that I did not like this year will come at no surprise, and that is Diary of an Oxygen Thief by Anonymous, and I completely understand why it was published anonymously, because this is a misogynistic freak book, and I understand that it's supposed to be written from the bad guy's perspective, but you can't just write a shitty novel and then say that, or any criticism that people put forward was actually intentional to make you sound like a genius writer. This book was like a case study in Misogyny 101. The views of the male main character, were so disgusting, and I found that besides that, just his character was insufferable. He lives in this beautiful Victorian home that backs onto a river, and he makes $300,000 a year, and he's still complaining about how shitty his life is and how women don't want him, and he enjoys hurting women on purpose. And the worst part of this book is that there are genuinely people out there who think that straight white men are the most oppressed group in society. Cry me a river, seriously. I hated this book, and so does everyone else, because it has a really low rating on Goodreads, as it deserves. That, I believe, is all of the books that I really hated this year, my worst books of 2025. It wasn't too bad. Like, that seems like a lot of books, but I did read over 120, so that's like a ratio of, I don't know, under 10% of the books were hate-worthy. That's not too bad. As a professional hater, I like to call myself, not too bad. so much for joining me today. Please let me know in the comments what your most hated book of the year was. I would love to know so I can steer clear and never read them. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel down below. I have back to regularly scheduled content now that the new year has rolled in. Obviously there'll still be the monthly reading wrap-up videos and maybe the monthly movies that I watched videos, just depending on how many movies I watched in that month. But otherwise there will be, Ducky, please, there will just be the normal mix of ASMR videos uploaded to my channel, so please stick around for all of those. Thank you so much, and I will see you